Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We hear from the president of NCBA on the work being done to help U.S. beef producers. Plus, a look at a valuable product that can help control ticks and improve the health of your herd.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association works every day to advance the economic, political, and social interests of the U.S. cattle business and to be an advocate for the cattle industry's policy positions and economic interests. Here now to discuss some of the key issues facing the industry is NCBA President Jerry Bone. Jerry, a lot of people in agriculture have questions about President Biden's 30 by 30 plan. What do we know and exactly how is NCBA engaging with the administration on this important issue?
Kevin, there's a lot of angst and interest about this plan across the country. They've renamed it America the Beautiful. Who can be against America the Beautiful, you know? But NCBA is going to actively be at the table. Pleasingly, so far, the report that the administration has started with is focused on the protection of private property rights and the role that producers, ranchers, and farmers are playing already as being one of the original conservationists, and they're recognizing that, and so we're pleased by that. But that's really just a starting point, and so our team in Washington is going to be aggressively communicating with the administration and be at the table to promote the positive things that our producers are doing and will continue to do, and also to be there to prevent anything bad happening as we go forward. And, you know, over time, conservation and sustainability things have kind of been focused on rhetoric and emotion, you know, political rhetoric particularly, but we're going to hopefully get it focused on fact and science. And so Caitlin Glover and our Washington, D.C. team are going to be really aggressive in representing the beef industry and what we do.
You know, for a long time, farmers and ranchers have been leaders in sustainability. Tell us, what are some of the other ways NCBA is advancing this important topic?
One of our really big strategic goals for this year is to have a more active role in how sustainability and climate change and environment affect our industry and the positive contributions that we contribute to the environment. We have a task force that's working right now. It's a group of members from all of our state affiliates. They're working on putting together some additional goals for NCBA as we move forward. We're also active members of the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, and we also have people who are at the International Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. So we're represented there as we work with NGOs, businesses like Walmart, Tyson, Cargill, and all those who are concerned about the role that environment plays and what their consumers are asking for.
Jerry, can you give us an update on the work of the Live Cattle Marketing Committee and its efforts to help producers manage risk?
I think you're aware that we met with the 5 other national organizations in Phoenix a couple of weeks ago. That's the first time that's happened in some time to work and look at this marketing challenge. There's no secret that the price spread between beef prices and live cattle prices is quite wide, and so we need to continue to address that. Unfortunately, we're still imbalanced. There's a bigger supply of cattle available than there are packing plant hooks. In defense of the packers, they're having a challenge of getting all their workers back to the packing plants. So they're running at less than maximum capacity, and we need to help them get that fixed. And so we're pushing on that, and will continue to be our message that we need to give the incentive to get people back to work, not to stay at home, and to try to eliminate this bottleneck that we're having at the packing plant level. We'll be talking more about this as we go forward. Our Triggers program is still underway. Colin and Ethan and I had a long call with the leadership of Tyson Beef on Friday, discussing the challenges that we face and trying to get Tyson to be more active in the negotiated market.
That group and others like it will soon meet in Nashville, Tennessee for the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. Talk about the important work that'll go on in Nashville.
There's going to be a lot going on, and I would say this is going to be the first time that a lot of people have been able to get out and participate in a big meeting. And so we're looking forward to that. It looks like everything's on go for Nashville right now. Obviously cattle markets are going to be at the top of the list. I think taxes will be discussed, the concern about losing the step up in basis that's being proposed by the administration. So we've got to defend that. Of course, sustainability, climate change, environment's also going to be discussed by our committees. The checkoff will be working. Checkoff committees will be hearing from contractors presenting new ARs, potential ARs for the coming year. We'll also update on the progress that our research and promotion efforts have been being done currently on the ARs that are under work this year. So there's a lot to be there. We're also going to go and have some fun. We're going to the Grand Ole Opry one night. We've got a really large trade show again, and I think all of our exhibitors, our vendors are looking forward to it. It's probably going to be the first time for some of them to be out and about for a while.
Thanks, Jerry. Registration is now open for the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show that Jerry just talked about. Don't miss out on early registration discounts. Go to convention.ncba.org for all the details. The beef checkoff helps to increase consumer demand for the beef we produce, not only here in the U.S., but in countries all around the globe. Here's a look at how the U.S. Meat Export Federation is working with culinary experts from other countries to showcase U.S. beef.
The United States Meat Export Federation is always focused on growing our global presence around the world on U.S. beef, pork, and lamb. One of the key ways that we do this is we have expertise on staff in the form of chefs and culinary experts that are able to tell our story and are able to penetrate into what the consumer wants around the world.
What we sell is the experience. So what we really want people to do is to live the experience of having U.S. meat. We present the cup so they can really see the piece raw. And from there, we take it into cooking it so they can try and really live the experience.
One of the things we look for with chefs are how well they're known in that region. So do people relate to them? Do they know their names? Do they want to follow them? Are they considered experts in terms of a culinary side? Because we're also asking them to develop the recipes as well. So we want those recipes to represent ingredients that would be indigenous to that part of the world.
We take European chefs, we bring them over to the USA, we share culinary experiences, we show what the best barbecue is, how to cook, and then we bring those chefs back to their homelands so that they can multiply their experience and share their vision with their colleagues in the local market, using the local language, and also adjusting for the local traditions as well.
Rika Yukimasa, she is very popular in Japan. I asked her if possible, we would like to have the Instagram live cooking show every weekend. And she said that this is great ideas. Even though the COVID occurred, we had a great opportunity to communicate consumer and endorse U.S. beef and pork online.
And here to talk more about global promotion efforts and what U.S. beef exports are doing is Dan Hallstrom. He's president and CEO of the U.S. Meat Export Federation. Dan, we just got a look at some of the great work you and your team are doing abroad. And I'm curious, what are the types of activities that you all engage in to really differentiate U.S. beef from the myriad of other competitors?
Yeah, Kevin, that's a good question. The key is differentiation because we're competing against a lot of global competitors in these key markets. We have competitors like Australia, Canada, and even on the low end side, Indian buffalo meat. So really getting the story out about what we're doing and our story is critical. So very similar to what we do in the U.S., we use a lot of different avenues. One is chefs, onboard chefs from USMEF staff, but also expert chefs, celebrity chefs in market, and also cooking show celebrities. And we have a lot of examples around the world where this has been very effective of telling our story of the rich, high-quality, grain-fed taste of U.S. beef.
Absolutely. It is a unique and differentiated product. And of course, COVID has made major changes both here and abroad in terms of how we market and distribute product. What are some of the changes you all have made to continue promoting U.S. beef during this period of COVID?
Well, historically, the food service segment's been our bread and butter. And of course, that's changed entirely in the last year and a half. But what we've seen is a shift to some extent into the retail sector. And the retail sector, in essence, is booming, whether it's big box retail, regional retail, et cetera. And we also have seen the e-commerce, the online platforms boom. And I would argue that, especially in the Asian markets, the online presence was much more than it has been in the U.S., and we've seen that just exponentially boom. So we have both of those segments that really have been holding us up. And I would say in the last year, we've exceeded expectations because numbers are better than I thought they would have been given what's happened to food service. The beauty of that is when food service starts to rebound, and we're seeing evidence of that in some key markets like a Korea, like a Mexico, et cetera, we're really optimistic that we'll see a compounded impact on demand going forward.
That's great news. So you talked about numbers. Give us an update. How is beef performing in the global market?
Well, in total year to date, we're down slightly, but the muscle cut side is steady with a year ago. And the real problem has been the beef variety meats, and that's more of a lack of labor than anything else at the plant level. Really? They're not able to save everything that there's demand for. We're seeing that improve somewhat. But like I said, the real good news here is that the the muscle meat side has been very robust in many, many different markets around the world.
So as you look ahead, what are some of the markets or the countries that you think hold the most promise for U.S. beef exports?
Well, I think our estimate year to date for this year is to set a new record. Our estimate is 10% growth, which would be a new all-time record. But the beauty of it is it's robust growth again across many different markets. Probably the one that's gaining the most attention at the moment is China, direct business into China. We ended the year last year about 40,000 metric tons. Our estimate this year is 125,000 metric tons. Wow. And once again, the demand, that middle class and upper middle class demand for high quality grain-fed beef is booming. And the agreement that was implemented in March of last year has a lot to do with that, with more plants approved, less restrictive in terms of some of the requirements, and it's really worked out well.
That's outstanding news and very encouraging for all of us in the beef industry. So I'm curious, I know you have a number of people who actually live in these markets. You've got boots on the ground all over the country that are keeping their fingers on the pulse and really managing so many of these influencing efforts. What is the feedback those folks get from retailers and consumers alike in terms of what they're saying about U.S. beef?
Yeah, this is really USMEF's bread and butter is our international staff. We have over 80 staff around the world, 19 regions. And thank God they were there because during COVID, with international travel restricted, these folks never missed a beat. They were on the ground through Teams and Zoom and all these other things, were able to communicate effectively. And what we're hearing from them is there's a couple of things. Number one is the experience of eating U.S. beef. You know, the high quality, the rich flavor, the grain finished taste is second to none around the world, as you know. And I think this combined with the safety aspect, our reputation as a global leader in food safety, these two attributes really to some extent help sell themselves as far as U.S. beef's concerned. But the feedback in general is very, very positive. The one concern is around labor. And specifically around, we have some issues at the moment globally with the supply chain. The infrastructure, the ports are backed up. There's a shortage of containers, freight rates are going up. So it's a little bit out of whack at the moment, which is a little bit of a concern in terms of being a reliable supplier around the world. But we're not the only ones dealing with this. It's a global supply chain issue. So hopefully we can get that back to where it needs to be soon.
Well, thank you so much. Exports are a very critical part of the future of the beef industry, and you all are leading that effort. We appreciate all that you do. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, see how the right equipment can make a big difference when you're cutting and baling hay on your operation. That story when we return. Stay with us.
Nasalgen 3 is a new 3-way intranasal BRD vaccine that offers young calves unrivaled protection against devastating respiratory diseases, including IBR, BRSV, and PI3. And it has a unique blue shadow, so there's no second guessing which animals have been vaccinated. To up your protection, choose new Nasalgen 3 PMH, the first and only 5-way intranasal vaccine on the market. Talk to your veterinarian and visit nasalgen.com to learn more.
From the very beginning, Ritchie has been dedicated to one thing: helping people deliver fresh, constant water to their animals. Today's Ritchie waterers rely on a valve design that remains much the same as it was in 1921. It's a simple idea. Do it right, and the rest will take care of itself. We never set out to create a company that would be around for 100 years. We just wanted to create something great.
Most cattle producers rely on hay to meet the forage needs of their cattle. However, in the eastern portion of the U.S., baling often happens in a very tight window because of rain and other weather challenges. Brian Baxter brings us the story of an Ohio cattle producer who has continued to upgrade his haying equipment to make his operation even more efficient.
On a late summer morning in north-central Ohio, Kelvin Egner and his daughter are out early, looking over the heifers that are a key part of the future for their family's purebred Angus operation.
Egner Farms Angus, we're a fifth-generation operation. My grandkids is the fifth generation to be on the farm. It's a family operation. It's my daughter, son-in-law, wife, and the grandkids. One of the things we try to do here is raise quality bulls. We've done that by paying attention to the end product. We raise freezer beef here and sell freezer beef, and so our bulls have to meet a quality aspect for the end consumer. And so when our bull customers buy bulls from us, they're assured that they're going to get quality products. And with our freezer beef business, we have to have that. Quality is number one.
When they're not checking on cattle or filling freezer beef orders, you'll likely find the Egner family is getting machinery ready to roll on the crop side of their operation.
Here we do a lot of double cropping. We put our corn silage in, take our corn silage off in the fall, and then we come back with triticale in the fall after that, and then take that off in the spring, and then we'll plant a teff or a Sudan grass after that. So in a matter of 2 years, we get 3 crops. Hay in our operations is a critical. That gets us through the wintertime. Our cattle don't spend all winter on pastures because the soil gets wet up here. It don't allow the cattle to be out all winter long. So that's the reason the hay crop is really critical to us, so we can get through that next winter. Our hay season here starts in the end of May and runs all the way through to October. We're constantly baling hay, whether it be silage or grass or alfalfa, straw, bean stalks, corn stalks, we bale everything.
The afternoon turned warm and the humidity dropped. That meant the round bales Kelvin put up were plenty dry. But in this part of the country, that's not typical.
Some of the challenges that we have is just getting some of the crop dry. In Ohio, high humidities, a lot of dew in the mornings in the fall. It's just rain. So we struggle on some years to get that crop dry enough. When we're going out to bale, we got to get that crop in. And we really can't afford breakdowns. We really can't afford to run slow. So when we're doing it, we really look at equipment that can get the job done and get it done in a hurry. And so that's one reason that we use the John Deere baler, is because we have to get that done in a short period of time.
With his need for quality forage and the tight weather window he usually faces for putting hay up, Kelvin decided it was time to upgrade his round baler. So he turned to his local John Deere dealer, AgPro.
Well, the one thing we like about AgPro is they took the time to learn our operation, and as we do more and more business with them, they come to us with ideas for equipment or processes that they feel will help us in our operation.
Having that relationship with a producer like Calvin is important, because that way we can communicate and know exactly the needs of each other. So in talking with Calvin and his different hay that he does, this 450M baler really fits the different types of hay that he decides to make up to feed his livestock.
One reason that we got the John Deere baler is because of it handling all those crops. Some balers can't handle corn stalks or not as good at corn stalks. Some of them are good at corn stalks, but our baler has to handle everything. We have to, since we're a variety of crops, I have to have a baler that does it all. So we bought our John Deere 450M last fall near the end of hay season. We were able to do our fall oats crop with it. Was really impressed how it handled the silage crop, and this year here we've been doing all of our hay crops with it and just really impressed how well the machine handles.
Although he shopped around before he bought the 450M, Kelvin says AgPro's service, John Deere's reliability, and the features on the baler helped make his choice an easy one.
So our John Deere baler has a mega wide pickup. We really like that. That helps us get a nice even bale. When we're making corners, we got more room to make that corner with a wider pickup than some of the other balers have on them.
So what Calvin was looking for in a baler was a baler that could get hay up quickly. They're big on the pre-cutter. They really like to pre-cut their hay. So we matched the 450M to their operation for the speed of what we can put hay through the machine, and especially get it through the pre-cutter with the mega wide pickup.
So we like to pre-cutter because it cuts up the hay, and especially in some of the long stem hay that we raise, the cows will waste a lot of that, especially in a round bale feeder or even the bunks. They'll grab a mouthful, pull out a big string of hay, drop part of it on the ground. That's wasteful. We like that pre-cutter because it chops it up, makes it a mouthful. It's easier for the cows. It makes a big benefit to us. We figure we save up to about a third in some instances on hay.
Another factor in Kelvin's buying decision was the availability of a discount thanks to his membership in the National Cattlemen's Beef Association.
So the one thing is with NCBA is they partnered with John Deere to offer discounts to NCBA members. We really like that because it's an added benefit.
When Calvin came and he told us that he was part of the NCBA and the Cattlemen Association, John Deere has a lot of affiliation programs, and so we were proud that he brought that to our attention so we could make sure that we could offer him the opportunities that come along with that affiliation. And for example, he could save hundreds of dollars on the different parts of his equipment that he wanted. In this case, he was looking for a round baler, so he did save significantly just because he was affiliated with the NCBA.
The discount was easy. All you have to do is you let your dealer know you're an NCBA member, and he'll take that NCBA membership discount right off the top.
Whether it's adding a new baler or developing more heifers as part of their Angus operation, Kelvin and his family enjoy working together, and they have an eye on making a way for another generation on the farm.
Hopefully they learn to appreciate the land and cattle and come back to the farm if they want to, and keep this going a couple more generations to go.
With the Egner family in Ohio, I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
If you'd like to learn more about how equipment from John Deere can bring value to your farm or ranch, visit your local dealership or check out the website johndeere.com. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll explain how controlling ticks can have major benefits for your cattle and your bottom line. Don't go away. We'll have more right after this.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Elliott with John Deere.
These are the pennies it costs for Alticid IGR protection, making it one of the best values in the market designed specifically for fighting hornflies on pasture. As a supplement, Alticid IGR is part of what you're already doing, and as a feed-through, what your cattle are always doing. Take shelter from the swarm for just 2 to 3 cents per animal per day. That's just $4.50 per animal per season. For hornfly protection that has been performing for over 40 years with no known resistance. Alticid IGR.
No matter where you raise cattle, herd health is critical to the success of your operation. Ticks are a small parasite that can have huge health consequences for your cattle. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Matt Fleck takes us to Kansas for a look at a valuable product from Elanco that can help producers minimize the impact from ticks.
Anaplasmosis is estimated to cost U.S. cattle producers $300 million in losses annually. While many associate the disease with the southern and southeastern regions of the country, positive cases of anaplasmosis have been found in almost every U.S. state. Bob Kammerlink of the Kammerlink Cattle Company, a cow-calf and show cattle operation in Leonardville, Kansas, has seen an increase in anaplasms in recent years.
We run a cow-calf operation, sell a few club calves along the way. Most of it is commercial as far as that goes, but got granddaughters that are showing. It's truly a family operation between my wife Janice and myself, and then I got the 2 granddaughters and the boys. All of us are involved in this thing. Probably within the last 8 to 10 years, this anaplasmosis thing has really popped up around here. But there's a lot of guys out here that don't have a clue on this thing. They'll have a cow that dies in a pasture. They just write it off. They don't even get a vet out to figure out what went haywire. And I think that's one thing that's contributed to the increase of this anaplasm thing, because a lot of people just don't realize what it is.
Dr. Catherine Reif is an assistant professor at Kansas State University in the College of the Veterinary Medicine Department of Diagnostic Medicine Pathobiology. Dr. Reif has been specializing in the study of anaplasmosis in cattle for more than 4 years.
Bovine anaplasmosis is a disease caused by a bacteria called Anaplasma marginale. This is a bacteria that lives inside the red blood cells of cattle. When cows first become infected, they can get lots of bacteria in their red blood cells, and as those red blood cells become damaged, they get cleared from the body, which causes the hallmark disease of anaplasmosis, which is acute anemia. Anaplasm can be transmitted a couple different ways. So the natural way that it's transmitted is through the bite of an infected tick. The other way that it can be transmitted is through blood-contaminated surfaces, and that can include things like the mouth parts of biting flies, and it can include needles or dehorners or other production instruments that may not get disinfected between use on an infected animal and then a potentially uninfected animal.
One of the challenges for producers and veterinarians is that anaplasmosis can be a difficult disease to diagnose.
First sign I go by is that if I see a cow that's starting to lose condition, starting to act a little bit lethargic, and they're not staying with the herd as much, we'll pull blood and try to sample it right away. A lot of guys say, well, it's only one cow. Well, yeah, that's one cow, and how many years of production have you lost on that deal? And how many calves have you missed along the way?
If you can get your hands on that animal that's behaving a little off, look at its mucous membranes, its eyes, and see if it's pale, that's a pretty good sign that you may be dealing with anaplasmosis. It's really important to act pretty immediately. So get that animal away just to help reduce the stress that that animal is experiencing. Make feeding and watering as easy as possible. Call your vet out, have them take a blood sample. Sometimes they'll just put a drop of blood on a slide and look at it, and they can actually see the anaplasma inside the red blood cell. And if that animal is diagnosed with it, or you strongly or your vet strongly suspects it, they can begin antimicrobial treatment or intervention to help pull that animal through.
Because my understanding, you can have anaplasmosis in these cattle and they can be carriers, so you can just keep spreading it from one to the other. So if I can rid that out of there, then I'm money ahead. Even though I spent $40, I may be saving $1,000 later on.
In 2020, the first new treatment for clinical anaplasmosis in many years, Baytril 100 CA1 from Elanco Animal Health, received conditional approval from the FDA.
Baytril 100 CA1 is indicated for the treatment of clinical anaplasmosis associated with Anaplasma marginale in replacement dairy heifers less than 20 months of age and all classes of beef cattle except for calves less than 2 months of age and any bull intended for breeding.
Traditionally, the primary antimicrobial that's been used to treat anaplasmosis is injectable oxytetracycline products. Tetracyclines are bacteriostatic, which basically means that they prevent the bacteria from replicating any further. And then within the last year, a new product has been approved, and that would be the Baytril 100 CA1 product. And what's really unique about that product is it's been conditionally approved for the treatment of clinical anaplasmosis, and that's the only product that currently has a specific indication for this disease. It's a fluoroquinolone and rofloxacin, which is actually bactericidal, which means that it kills the bacteria. If you have a cow that's really experiencing severe signs of clinical anaplasmosis, I would probably go with the Baytril or enrofloxacin product because we're actually killing the anaplasma, not just simply stalling it.
We can really help sort out how do you identify animals that have the disease or infected or not. What to do about the disease from a management perspective remains the more challenging question, and there's no silver bullet. Certainly we can make recommendations for trying to manage ticks on your operation, and you can control ticks through things like cattle insecticide ear tags, dust, sprays, and remain diligent about tick management.
I'm a big one as far as using fly tags. I'm using a corral spray, and that's where I go out there in the pasture and I've got a 15-gallon spray tank on the back of that four-wheeler that I can go out there and spray those cattle with. But it's not like one of those heavy emulsifier concentrates that if you don't keep it stirred, it settles out on you. So that's been a convenience as far as not having to worry about that. And you know you're getting the right concentration of product out there.
Both Dr. Reif and Bob Kammerlink agree that a strong relationship with a veterinarian is vital to combating anaplasmosis.
So it's really important that producers have a good working relationship with their veterinarian. Number one, to identify potential problems such as anaplasmosis, and then figure out a way that they can best manage it within their own production operation.
I've had the same vet since 1974, and he knows my operation, I know him, and we can talk back and forth, and if I can go call him, give him symptoms of what's going on, he can at least give me a guide on it.
For producers, veterinarians, researchers, and the industry, it all comes down to the welfare of the animals.
It's important to continue research into anaplasmosis because it's a really convoluted and complicated disease. So as we better understand how to manage this disease and improve our management of the disease, it improves animal health and welfare, and it improves the sustainability of our operations because we can be more efficient with the animals that we have.
Reporting from Kansas, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
To learn more about Baytril 100 CA1, talk with your veterinarian or go to elanco.livestock.com. Up next, we'll introduce you to a South Dakota family that has made stewardship and conservation a top priority on their operation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
They're here, they're hungry, and they can't be stopped with ivermectin alone. Add Safeguard when you deworm your cattle to take out resistant parasites like brown stomach worm, Cooperia, Nematodirus, and others. With 2 dewormers from 2 different classes, you can kill more resistant worms in your cattle, so you don't leave potential on the table. Consult your veterinarian for the diagnosis and treatment of parasitism. Then bite back at safeguardworks.com.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Over the past several weeks, we've brought you some great stories about cattle producers and their outstanding conservation efforts. as we highlight the 2020 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Now, let's introduce you to the Region 7 winner from South Dakota.
In the rolling hills of South Dakota's James River Valley, Brian and Jamie Johnson are raising their kids on the farm that has family roots going back more than a century.
My great-grandfather settled here in 1906, and so it's been passed down to the generations, and we farm with my parents, Alan and Mickey, and my wife Jamie, and all our 4 kids.
Brian and I are the 4th generation on this farm, so our kids will be the 5th generation of people living here and working the land. That's kind of one thing that we're really proud of, that it's always been owned and operated by the Johnson family.
Working together on the farm each day, Brian and Jamie are sharply focused on soil health, growing their crops and caring for their cow-calf herd in ways that build the sustainability of all their natural resources. The road to healthier soil began more than 3 decades ago when Brian's dad, Alan, decided to convert the operation to no-till.
In the spring of '86, I started no-tilling, and then basically is to save moisture, raise a crop, just conserve things. It has been a great thing to do for this farm.
We try not to disturb the soil at all. When we're planting, we don't disc or till anything. The same thing, we leave all the residue on the field after harvest. We don't bale corn stalks, we don't bale wheat. All that residue helps capture moisture for those dry years, which is really helpful, but it also helps feed the soil microbes.
By coupling their no-till practices with cover crops, the Johnsons have improved both water infiltration and soil health, making their land more productive. In addition, the cover crops and crop residue left after harvest provide a valuable added feed source that benefits both their cattle and the land.
We've been using cover crops for over 10 years, and we've really seen so much improvement in herd health and in soil health. So they really provide a lot of nutrients and diversity for your soil, but it's like giving your cattle a smorgasbord of salad bar goodness.
By having the grass acres that we do and being able to run cattle on these acres and then in turn run them on some crop acres as well in the fall, it increases our profitability, reduces our fertilizer costs, and everything just works hand in hand.
With their cattle, Brian and Jamie have worked to make continuous improvement. They've adopted artificial insemination to better time their calving season with available grazing, installed new water systems, and implemented rotational grazing to maximize the productivity of their grass.
Rotational grazing on our farm works great because it's a way to get the most out of the grass acres that we have available to us, but also improve the quality of those acres.
We're constantly monitoring each paddock to see how things look. And last year we put in an extensive well system with new water tanks to different paddocks of our pastures. So that really is going to make grazing a lot easier.
It amazes me, when we drive out here and check the pastures, and it's 2 months of growth that just is phenomenal. And Mother Nature had a part in it, but part of our system is a factor as well. And it's just a blessing.
In addition to taking steps to foster more diverse grasslands and healthier soils, the Johnsons have put some of their acres into the Conservation Reserve Program and created buffer strips to protect the creek that winds its way through the farm.
Timber Creek runs right through the center of our main pasture here on the farm, and so it's part of our management of our grazing lands and in the pasture here to maintain a clean water source there for us as well as the people downstream.
Where Timber Creek flows through our land is all in pasture. We don't farm anything up around that watershed. It's really important for us to have those grasses along those areas to act as that filter system to keep the water healthy.
They've been a great voice for soil health, a great voice for stewardship of the land. I wish we could work with more producers like this.
Without question, the Johnson family knows how to balance cattle, crops, and conservation. And each day, they're learning, improving, and passing on the lessons in stewardship that will ensure a sustainable future for their family and their land.
We're just here for a little bit, and it's to be passed on to the next generation, and so let's make it better. That's stewardship to me.
We're always striving to do better and be better for the land and for the next generation.
It's something that we believe in, and our kids have really caught on with it. When you drive through the pasture with them and they see the variety of grasses out here and the lushness of the forage that's available to the cows, they understand that stewardship pays off. Taking care of the land and the soil, it's a good thing, and they see the results at a very young age. This is what the dream looks like right here, living on the land and enjoying every minute of it.
Now, if you'd like to find out more about the Environmental Stewardship Award winners, see photos and videos, and nominate someone for the award next year, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. Still ahead, it's time for a visit with our good friend Baxter Black. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Getting to run a family farm is a dream come true. When you can grow good grass, there's opportunity to grow plenty of weeds. We want to use the tools that will help us do a better job. I would like the legacy to be that we took really good care of the land and we truly did it as a passion and we did our very best for the right reasons.
Did you know that Prefert makes over 1,000 different farm, ranch, and rodeo items? And now, thanks to Prefert Direct, it's easier than ever before to get access to every item Prefert makes delivered direct to your local dealer. For more information about Prefert Direct, visit us at prefert.com. Prefert, America's #1 name in farm, ranch, and rodeo.
Out of the box for the Reride Side of Rodeo, 3 audio books, rodeo novels by Baxter Black. A total of 23 hours following our cowboy guys and gals on the road to the finals. Rambunctious, exciting, kind-hearted, and funny, of course. $39.90. CDs or downloads, BaxterBlack.com. 800-654-2550. On the road to the rodeo, horse show, state fair, ball game, or grandma's house, climb on up and take a ride with me.
A retired Ohio farmer told me this story. It was about the best coon dog he'd ever seen. It was an old blue tick hound that his father had trained. And he said his dad was such an excellent trainer, he didn't even have to go hunting with Blue. The dog would go by himself. Dad would put a hide board out on the back porch, a large or a jumbo. And just before dark, Blue would come out from under the porch, look at the size of the hide board, and the next morning, there would be a coon 2 feet lying on the porch. Blue was so well trained and so smart, he would chase the raccoons around through the woods till he spied a tree that was leaning just enough that he could climb up it and take care of the coon, sometimes more than one. And then he'd whip out his little Moore Maker knife that he carried on his collar and skin him out. And he'd carry him home in his mouth. The only thing that he couldn't do was sharpen his skinning knife. You see, he couldn't hold the knife with his paws because his toenails were so worn down from running that when he held the knife in his mouth, his ears flopped down and he couldn't see. Blue was so proficient with the knife, he would hold it in his teeth, peel his lips back like a jackass eating briars, and reach up with one toenail and open that little Moore Maker knife and skin the coon right quick and not have a nick in the hide. One time Dad sent away and got Blue a mail order course on ventriloquism. He got so good at throwing his voice that the game wardens from 3 counties ran themselves ragged trying to catch old Blue hunting out of season. But alas, they lost old Blue due to an unfortunate circumstance. Mom always did her ironing out on the back porch, and one day Dad came home with a brand new ironing board. Well, they visited and hugged and caught up, and and then went in the house completely forgetting about the ironing board left out on the porch. It was left out all night. They never saw Old Blue again. This is Baxter Black from out there.
That certain time in the day when you can take a deep breath, knowing your work is done. That's the feeling Aspen products can create. Cost-effective alternatives to name brands that deliver the same results. Qualaxin is one of them. Use it to prevent and treat respiratory disease in your herd. Then breathe easy. Find them at Animal Health International.
Time now for Weather Watch with meteorologist Matt Makins.
Matt Makins here, always keeping an eye on that weather for you. Speaking of which, I'll have your June outlook and a quick preview of the summer weather outlook as well in just a moment. Biggest talking point though is the drought, and we're going to hear a lot more on that as we go throughout the summer into the fall, sadly. Drought conditions by the numbers as of late May. Right around 1,300 counties across the lower 48 considered to be in a drought. 150 million acres, roughly speaking, of cropland is abnormally dry, and right around 14 million head of beef cattle impacted by drought conditions across the country. I do expect those numbers to increase as we go throughout June, and more notably, July and August. Water quality issues, water quantity issues, all things we've already noticed across the northern plains, the Dakotas, out across the west. So got to keep an eye on that water situation closely, how it impacts hay. Supplemental feeders went well into the late spring because pastures just didn't have the water to be of any quality. We'll have to worry about supplemental feeding, the hay supply, alfalfa supplies as we get into the fall as well. A lot of supplemental feed will be needed late this season. Corn, big headlines there due to the price. We'll have a look at the impact of the drought on the corn in just a moment. Let me start off with those hay areas though. Annually, the counties I've shaded here in green, there are classic hay producers. Let me overlay the drought on top of that, especially over the west. Look at how much of that hay territory is covered in abnormally dry to drought conditions. That'd be roughly 50% of the alfalfa hay is considered to be in a drought right now. Those numbers likely to increase through June, July, August into September. Now as far as corn, classic corn areas here, the Corn Belt, but overlay that drought and we have abnormally dry to drought conditions grabbing quite a chunk of corn territory so far. Roughly through late May, we're looking about a quarter of our corn producers to be impacted by abnormally dry to drought conditions. And those numbers may increase into June and July. Why? Well, here's the outlook for June. Weather across the northern Rockies will be the driest of all. Probabilities for wetter than average conditions from the Gulf Coast on up toward the Great Lakes, sections of the Ohio Valley. So wet and dry areas. Now, a quick preview of the summer. Look across the west. Heat. Very dry conditions. They'll both be building across the west into the northern plains as we go throughout the summer. As far as the East Coast, wetter than average conditions here. I know a lot of interest in this summer forecast, and you'll see much more. I write in depth about this summer outlook in the June edition of National Cattlemen's newspaper. I'll see you there. Before we get to that point though, before I leave you tonight, you can always follow along with our social media channels. I'll be posting some of the images I just showed you. We'll discuss at greater depth about those longer term outlooks, especially June's and the summers. And you can find us, like here. This is the Facebook page for National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Those images you just saw, I put them on the page already. I look forward to your comments. Until I see you on the next Cattleman to Cattleman, be well.
Each year, the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show offers the perfect environment for cattle industry members to come together, network, create policy, and to have a little fun. We sent Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Kate Maher to Tennessee to give us a preview of what this year's convention has to offer for cattle producers and their families.
Well, our crew has been here in Nashville all week getting a lot of great information for the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. We're talking today with Dina Ivey with Visit Music City. Dina, our group is so excited to be back in Nashville. What a great place to come to. How excited are you to have us back?
We are so excited to have the Cattlemen back. I mean, they're one of our core groups. You know, they've been here so many times, so we just can't wait to welcome them back, especially after all that we've all been through.
You know, you make a great point about after all we've been through. I think cattle producers in Nashville have a lot in common, which makes this city such a great fit. You all have been through some tough times recently, just outside the pandemic. Talk a little bit about what you guys have
Nashville has been through so much. I mean, we started with the tornado, and 2 weeks later we shut down because of the pandemic, and then we ended with Christmas Day bombing, which was so sad. But Nashville's resilient. We're like cattlemen. I mean, we're tough.
You are tough, and you know what? I tell you what, we've got cattle producers from all over the country ready to come to Nashville and support this city. What are some great things that can be done here? I mean, what's the city going to look like?
Well, the good part is that since they've been here, we've opened so many new things. I mean, our campaign is, while you've been away, we've been creating. So while everybody's been shut down, we've just continued to build and build, and we have some really fun new things for people to do. Fifth and Broad is a brand new place downtown. It's a complex that has a lot of restaurants, a food hall, shopping, really fun place to check out.
And you know, downtown is such an attraction to our attendees too. We love to come down to the honky tonks. What is that going to look like?
Yeah, the honky tonks going to be wide open. I mean, when you guys come back, we are going to be open. Everything will be open. Hours will be normal. Capacity limits, there will be no more capacity limits. So we're ready to welcome you back.
Great. And you know, we're coming in August, which is a different time of year for us. So we're ready to take advantage of the Nashville summertime. A lot of people are going to bring their families. What's there for families to do?
Yes, please bring your families. Stay longer, have fun. There are a lot of really, really good things to do here. I mean, we have a great zoo, we have shopping, we have adventure works, we have a little bit of everything for families to check out. Depends on the age group.
Yeah, so really just a great time to be had at all. What's your message to our attendees as we get ready to head to Tennessee, tune into Tennessee in August?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for believing in us and for coming back and bringing so many people. We love the Cattlemen. We can't wait to have you back here. And just come enjoy yourselves. Nashville's a great city for all ages.
Yeah, I can attest to that. We've been having a great time here this week, so please make plans to attend August 10th through the 12th right here in Music City, Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.